What's up, you guys? It's David here from cleverprogrammer.com, and today we are going to be talking about how you can get started with the Redux and state management and all that kind of stuff using the Redux toolkit. Now, this is actually going to be the simple, easiest way that you can get your head into state management, Redux, and all this kind of stuff. So let's just talk about what Redux is. So this is probably the most important skill that a React developer can learn above React, obviously. And Redux basically is a bubble around your application. It's kind of like a data layer. Speaking of data, I got you a little something that can potentially up your programming game to the next level, and you can actually monetize it at any given industry. That's right, one of the most important skills you can learn as a developer, and you can actually charge more by just implementing some sort of analytical stuff, is basically data science. Now, your one-stop shop to learn data science is actually datacamp, as they give you a wide range of 300 plus courses that you can choose from, say, SQL, Python, or whatever. They got you covered. All the courses are bite-sized, so no matter how tight your schedule is, it does fit in. And the best part, it is actually accessible on mobile, so even if you're on the toilet, walking your dog, getting groceries, you can actually watch datacamp. All their courses are focused around practicality, giving you the head start you deserve. Subscribe today for 25 bucks a month and let the skills you acquire pay for it. Still on the fence? Check out all their courses' first chapter for completely free. Check out datacamp in the description down below. Let's get straight back into the video. That is accessible for all the components that you have inside of your application. Basically, you use it when the normal states are just not good enough. And the whole idea around it is that you have a data layer around your application that is accessible for all your components. So basically, you can have some sort of global states that way. Creating an app with Redux is as simple as typing in npx create react app space dot space dash dash template Redux. And it's just going to spin up a full working application that you can go ahead and get started after smashing that like button for the YouTube algorithm. I've made a quick to-do app just to demonstrate how this whole thing actually works and how you should be thinking about it. And I actually link it down below, so you can go ahead and clone that repository from GitHub. And you can just go ahead and take it away, play with it, and do whatever you want. And speaking of stuff in the description, we actually just released a new module to our course, Profit with JavaScript. So I actually highly recommend checking it out because it's pretty awesome. I'm not gonna talk too much more about it, and we actually gonna have some exclusive stuff just in there, so make sure to go ahead and check it out. We also have a 1-hour free training down below in the description. You can go ahead and check out how Nas made 300 grand in 3 years as a JavaScript developer. So if you like money, go ahead, check it out, because it is like literally a step-by-step tutorial how you can do the same. So if you like money, make sure to check it out and actually watch the whole thing. It's super awesome. With that said, comment down below what you want me to build next for you guys, and smash that like button, subscribe for more awesomeness, and let's roll that intro. Alright, step number 1 into understanding how this Redux thing works is we're gonna build a to-do app. So we're just gonna call it Redux to-do. It's good. And over here, let's open up a new terminal, and we're gonna type in here npx create react app space dot dash dash template Redux. Whoop, template Redux. So this is pretty much going to go ahead and do all the hard work for us. I will speed this up because this actually does take quite a while. And this will basically do create us a React app that will be completely usable by us and will have a Redux in it. So we can pretty much go ahead and start building just like that. All right. All right, so once the process is done, we can pretty much do the usual code space dot. That will fire up a VS Code with the project in it, and I remember asking for more zoom, so I will zoom in even further. Let me know, guys, in the comments down below if it's good enough zoom or not. But anyways, this is pretty much the app we got. We have a few different other folders than before, but let's just go ahead and fire up the application. So I'm just gonna hit yarn start in here, and this is the template application that we get with Redux, and you can see a counter over here. We can add like different amount of numbers to it, and this is basically getting stored in Redux, and this is pretty much what we will understand and go ahead and make as a to-do list. All right, so in here we have a few different things. We will pretty much not use any of these. Just like with the normal React app, we can pretty much go ahead and delete everything inside of app.js. So everything in between the header is going to be deleted, as well as app.css is going to be completely emptied. All these test files are not going to be used at all. Neither is going to be the logo. And we can go into index.css and add a margin of complete 0, and that will pretty much just snap everything to the side. And inside of the features folder, we have this counter folder, which we can go ahead and delete. And in the store.js file, we can delete all the import and all these reducers. So let's take a look at how the application is looking like. So super white, that's good. And going back to the app.js file, let's just add a new h1, which is going to be, I don't know, say clever programmer in here. And if it shows up at the corner, we are good to go. So right now, let's go ahead and continue with the to-do app. All right, so let's take a look at how we will build this whole thing. So obviously on top, we will have the to-do list. So that's pretty good. And below that, we want to have some sort of input box, so that way we can add new items. Now, I also want to add a done or some sort of check mark thing, and that way we can keep track of what kind of to-dos do we have for the rest of the day. All right, so let's go ahead and build first the input part, because afterwards, then we will be able to work easier with the to-do list. So let's go ahead and open up a new folder in here, which we will call components. All right, so in here, you want to go ahead and create an input.js as well as a input.css file. So that will be our full input screen. So I'm just gonna make this window look nice. And if I type in here RAFCE, that will go ahead and create a full working React component. So if you don't know what this magic is, go to the extensions of your VS Code, type in ES7, and then this is the one extension that you want to actually go ahead and download. All right, so with that, we can now go ahead and add a class name over here, which is going to be input, right? And now we're going to make it so it looks capital, because for some reason it didn't capitalize it, but all good. And before we actually forget, let's import the input.css file. Like I said, input.css. Moving on, let's just create the full HTML structure of this file. So we're gonna have obviously an input in here, simple input box. And below that, we want to obviously have a button. So the button is what we're gonna press once we are finished, once we're done typing, and that will actually fire off a function that will add the actual to-do to the list, okay? So that's function. So we're just gonna add let's actually call it add, and it will fire off the function of, so on click, So this is when we want to fire off that word function. So we just want to call it add to do. And going up here, let's go ahead and define that. So add to do. Okay. And right now the application is going to freak out because it doesn't know what to do when we do this. So we pretty much want to keep a track of what's happening in the input box, right? So we will need to have a piece of state for that. So for that, we are going to use the useState library of React. So what that does is it's pretty much the variables of React. All right, so let's just type in const, and we're gonna say input and set input, and that will be a useState with an initial value of nothing. Now, you might be confused what's going on here. If you are, it's completely fine. Just know that we have a few other videos where we explain what is going on here, but this is not, this video is about Redux, so I'm not gonna dive deep into it. Make sure to check out Profit with JavaScript down below in the description. We go in depth in all these kind of stuff. So with that said, let's move on. And just to actually connect that piece of state with the input box, we want to say value is going to equal to input. And once we start typing, that will fire off an unchanged function. So then what we want to do is say that's gonna have an event, okay? And we want to set the input that whatever that to whatever that event is, okay? So that event actually has a target value, which is pretty much the actual button that we pressed, the value of that button. So if I press this button over here, this will go ahead and mean G, all right? So that's pretty much it. Now we actually saved it to a piece of state. All right, next up, what we will do, actually, let's go ahead and check it out first, like how it actually looks like. Okay, it doesn't look like nothing because we haven't imported it. So we will go ahead and import input, and there we have it. So I actually used auto import, which is a built-in feature of VS Code, but if it for some reason doesn't work for you, you want to go ahead and type in this line of code. So that will import this here. We have this functional working add button and the input box. I'm just zooming in for a little. Yeah, pretty crappy, but we're gonna make it look beautiful. All right, next up, let's do a little bit of styling because right now this application kind of lacks of styling. So what you want to do is open app.css and target app right away, which will have a height of 100 view height, as well as a width of, as well as a width of 100 view width. With the background color, it's going to be some sort of grayish. I tried to make it as minimal as possible, so it's not going to be the most designed application. But what you want is a 168, 173, and a 182. That will pretty much go ahead and give us this grayish something. That's pretty much it for now. All right, going back to the CSS file, we got a few different other stuff to do. Okay, so what you want is, because we want the whole thing to be in the center, we're going to use display grid this time. And we want to go display grid. And we're going to place the items. So we're going to place items to the center. That will center the whole application. We have this input box in here, which is good. But we also want to make the input box look nice. All right, so in here, in the input.css file, okay, you want to go ahead, target input right away. That will go and grab this, like pretty much everything in here. And you want to give it a height of a 50 pixels, width of 80%, which will actually make sense later on, but just go with the flow for now. And we're going to give it a border radius of 12 pixels and a background color of white. All right, so background color white. That's it. And we're going to go with display flex, and we are going to justify all the content to the center and align everything to the center. That basically centers all the items, all the child items in the center, both vertically and horizontally. So that's good. Once we're good with that, now notice I'm going to type in input once again, but this time around it's actually more of a pinkish color instead of that purple one. So in here we actually target this class, but this time we target the HTML tag input. Okay, so that's a huge difference. And what we want to say is going to be background. So background is going to be none. We want to remove everything because it looks ugly actually. Let's take a look at how it looks like. So right now it looks like this. Now I've already removed the background, but we have a few different stuff else to remove. We have a border which we want to get rid of. So that's going to be none again. And we are going to give it a margin of left. And that's going to be 12 pixels once again. And we want this to be like stretch out as far as it can, and then just go ahead and take up all the space it can. So we will say flex 1, and that will pretty much snap the button to the right hand side. Yeah, just like that. Bang. So now it's pretty crazy how it looks like, but it will come together. Now obviously this ugly blue thing when I go in here is ridiculous, and we want to get rid of that, and we can do that by targeting it and then adding a focus. So that actually means once it is focused, so once you actually click in there, this line of code is going to only apply at that time. So we want to say outline, and it's going to be none. So now it's so much more better, so much nicer. We can still type in here if I actually select it, and it doesn't look that ugly. All right, last but not least is going to be the button, and that will have a margin right of 8 pixels, a background color of RGB 214 to 13, and another to 13. So that will be some sort of a more of a lighter gray. And there's that typo, so it doesn't work. But we are also gonna remove all the borders it had before and add a border radius of 10 pixels, a height of 30 pixels, and the width of 50 pixels. So that's pretty much how it will look like. It looks so much nicer, and you can actually tell the bar that it's not the same color as the background, not the same color as the input box. So this is getting together. All right, so that was it for the input. Let's go ahead and continue by actually saving all this stuff, all the to-dos to Redux, and that way we will have global variables, and this is where things are going to get crazy. All right, time to actually save all the to-dos that we type in. So for that, that's where we're going to use Redux. Now, when we actually fired this project up, inside of features, we had something called the counter, and that was pretty much the whole Redux slice that we had in here, but we deleted that. So we're just going to go ahead and create a to-do slice in here, and that will contain everything in connection with the Redux. Now, if you haven't already, I'm showing you once again, go to extensions, open, search for ES7, search for this very specific snippet tool, because this is going to save your life, plus it is going to be a lot. So if you haven't done that, pause this video right now. I don't usually say it, so right now do pause it. Otherwise, don't pause it ever at all. Also, smash that like button. and pause this, install that, and then come back. All right. So right now you should have that extensions. Otherwise, you're gonna get lost. So going in here, you just want to type in RX slice, and that will pretty much create a Redux slice for you inside of the Redux toolkit. Now, what you want here to do is, because we named it to-do slice, that's amazing. Now we want to give it a name, and that's going to be to-dos over here. Now notice that we need to define the initial state out over here. We can actually place it inside of here too, but it doesn't make any sense. Like, it's so much easier to handle them outside. And what we can do is you want to go ahead and, like, this is where you actually start defining all those global states. So you want to go and type in to-do list, and that the initial state is going to be like, it is a complete empty array. We're just not gonna mess around with that. Now, as for adding a to-do, you will need to define something called a reducer. This is kind of like a simple function that will just make sure that everything is saved and locked all in place. So you just want to have a save to-do function in here, which will have state and action as their inputs. And this is going to be the save to do function. Now, what is happening here? So state is actually the current state of the save to do. Action is something that when you shoot in Redux, this is the function that is actually getting executed. And this will have a payload, which is going to be carried in here. So I will actually make sure that you guys understand it. Just let's first create this. So what we want to do is say state.to-do-list .push, and we want to throw in the action .payload. All right, what's happening here? Okay, so I will just comment here a normal state, okay? So say we got the to-do list. All right, so to-do list and set to-do list. And this is going to be a use state, and it will have an initial value of an empty array, okay? So this part, right? If you already understand states, this will not be hard. So this part over here is going to be this part exactly. We just outsource it to a different kind of function over here, okay? It's pattern recognition. This is how it looks like. So to-do list is actually the state, the current state of this specific state, okay? Now, because Redux is able to manage several states, we actually need to, like, that has a current state of all those states that it actually manages inside of it. So we will need to go into state and go into to-do list, right? So I will go slate, go to-do list, and then you want to push in the action.payload. So what is this thing actually? This whole thing, this is the set to-do list, all right? So how to use a set to-do list? It's basically set to list, and then you throw something in there. Now, this is going to be the action payload, okay? All right, now that we covered this, make sure to actually play it back a few times and just try to understand what's happening here, because this is going to be a lifesaver. And with that, you want to go ahead and export it, because this is going to be an action. And you just want to add the save to do in here, and that is it so far. All right, going back to input.js, we need to import a few different things. So first thing first, we want to import use dispatch from the React Redux library. That's going to be the tool that we use to interact with Redux. So remember, Redux is actually a layer around the application that is accessible for all the components. So but it actually needs a tool which is use dispatch to actually interact with it. So right after defining this piece of state, you want to go ahead and I think if you just type in use dispatch and go with this one and then delete function, this is what we need. Now we define it, it's good. And after that, in here, we exported a save to do, but now we want to import that. So save to do, and we want to import it from, it's actually going to be in the features. Oops. In the come on. So it's actually going to be in the features folder and inside of the to-do slice. All right, and to actually make sure that it works and everything is working, I'm just gonna fire up a Chrome real quick and we'll show you how it works. But first, we need to define the function that is actually going to shoot into Redux. So in here, I'm just gonna type in console log, and I just wanna say adding to do, or adding actually the input. So just make sure that we know what is happening and what we are actually throwing in Redux. So once that's done, that's when we want to save a that's when we want to save the to-do. So we want to use the dispatch to actually interact with the Redux, and then want to go ahead and save the to-do, but we're actually going to throw in a full object. So what we want is we want to have an item that is going to be the input that we just typed in the form, and it will have a done indicator, which is going to be false, obviously, because we haven't checked it as done. And we want to give it an ID. So once we interact with the done check mark, we actually know which one to actually mark done. So it will say, we're just going to give it an ID. And I think the easiest one is to say date.now. That is going to be unique. Time always passes. So that's pretty much it. And one more thing, we need to store this whole, this specific state in the store.js file. So that way actually Redux keeps track of what is going on. And that will have another reducer. Okay. So what we do here is we're going to say import. And we're gonna go ahead and say to do reducer, and that will be imported from the features and the to-do slice. Okay, now this time we actually do export default here, so it's all good. And what we want to say to-dos is going to be the reducer we just imported. So that's good. And let's take a look at what we have just built. And if I go ahead and type in hey, and go ahead add it, now you can see the difference is this, and we can see the new state. We can see it is a chart, which is pretty crazy, but I don't even know what's going on. We can see the raw as well as the action, and this is the payload we threw in. So that's pretty much how you shoot into Redux and set a new piece of state. All right, next up, it's time to actually go ahead and render out all the stuff that we've just saved into Redux. So for that, we're going to go into app.js, and this is where we're going to take care of the to-do list part. Now in here, I want to actually create two divs, which will wrap up the whole to-do list stuff. So one is going to be app container, and this will actually include the input as well, not unlike the other one, which is going to be app to do container. And inside of there, that is where we will loop through the saved stuff. So whatever is in the slice, whatever is stored in the slice, that's what we're going to be looping through, and then that is what will be rendered out. All right, so just for that purpose, I want to actually create just a dummy dummy to do. So I'm just going to do this, and it will equal to a few different stuff. All right, so let's go in here, and I'm just going to grab the stuff. Bang, bam. And oops, actually I forgot that it's an object. So we will take care of that now. Okay, and whatever this is, like, okay, it's just gonna be to do dope, and might even, this is going to be some sort of number, so I'm just gonna pass that in, and we want to have a true and a false just for later purposes. Boom, go in here, it's going to be true, and yep, so it's going to be to do two dope, and bang, whatever. So over here, what we see, this is just a simple array, but if we take a look at what we dispatch into Redux, this is pretty much the exact same structure. So for that, this is going to be perfect for development purposes. And what I will do is I'm just gonna loop that through with a dot map, and in here I'm gonna have an item, bang, and instead of that kind, I'm just gonna go with the normal brackets, and in here I will have a component. Okay, so that's going to be the to do component dope. So let's actually build that. Let's actually go ahead and build the to do item. And first thing first, just to cancel out this error, let's just quickly build the component. So it's going to be to do item .js. Yep, exactly. And we're gonna just say REFCE, boom. And the class name, just give it quickly. It's going to be to do item. That's it. And I'm just gonna pull it on the side so I can quickly import it real fast. So I want to do item. All right. Okay, with that, before we actually forget, we want to have a to-do item.css file just as well. We can leave it over there, and let's quickly import it right away. So it's going to be to-do item.css. Okay, and let's just think about it for a second. So what we actually want is that this specific item displays the whatever we have to do, whatever the specific item on our list, if it is done or not, and then based on and if we go ahead and click that that we want to tick this off, we need to know the specific item's ID. So we need to pass in all the different props that we have inside of Redux. So we're just going to go ahead and we want to give it a name, which is going to be item.item, which is pretty weird, but it does work. We also want to throw in, I'm just going to do a little bit of line breaking here. We also want to throw in done, which is item.done. Hey, done right there. Boom. And we also want to throw in the ID, which is going to be item.id. This name actually sounds a little bit weird, but it is what it is. All right, next up, here we actually want to catch every single one of those that we actually throw in. So we just want to have a name, a done, and then ID in there. And now the fun begins. So in here, what we actually want to do is obviously have the checkbox, but that's going to be just a little bit later. So let's just have the checkbox over here. And we also want to write the name right over here. So that is actually going to be a p tag, which will contain, which will be just simply the name. So it's not going to be something crazy that is happening, but let's take a look at how it's going. There is some sort of error. Okay. And okay, so it actually does work. There might be some sort of issues with the styling, but we will take care each and every single one of those. So don't worry about that for now. For now, let's get the functionality right, and then we will figure out everything else. So yeah, it does work. Everything is in place. So yeah, let's go back. This actually does work. So yeah. And what we want to do is add a specific class name based on whether it is done or not. Okay. So in here, what we want to do is done. And if it is done, then we want to add a to-do item. And in the BEM naming convention, there is two different ways we can go about it. So let's go to getbem.com. So if you go ahead and go over here, there is the block. So a normal block is just simply by its name. Then the element has this some sort of this is how elements are, and with dashes we can add these sort of modifiers. Okay, so that's pretty much what we will do over here as well. So we want to have the to-do item, and then we're just gonna say done over here, so that we'll modify it, and that will just do a strike through of the name. Okay, we will set that up later on in the CSS part. Okay, so we actually have the name done, and now it's actually time to go ahead and install Material UI and take a look at the checkbox stuff. So let's go in here, go back to the terminal, and just type in yarn add and add material -UI/core, boom. And while that does its thing, we can just take a look at Material UI, and we want to have a checkbox thing. So let's just search for that. Bang, React checkbox. And this is exactly what we are looking for. So this is all the documentation and all that kind of stuff. I'm not gonna spend too much time on it. What you actually want here is this. So I'm just gonna add a few spaces over here. So you obviously want to import it from the Material UI core, and then for checked, right? So that is going to be responsible to know whether the item is checked or not. The color, you want to set it to primary, because that's going to be this bluish thing, and you want to fire off a function, right? So once you click on it, you want to fire off a function which I called handle check, and this is just for SEO purposes and for Material UI to work. So let's just create that function that we will fire off, but let's not do anything in there. So we will have handle check, boom. I actually messed something up in there. Yeah, right. Okay, now it's better. So that's so we got the function already, so that's good. Let's take a look at what we have over here. And yeah, just like that, nothing is happening, but we know that this one was actually marked as true. This one was actually marked as false. So we're getting there. So let's fix that styling, and then let's go ahead, style this to-do item, and then we will hook up Redux and do all the rest of the stuff. So I'll catch you guys soon. All right, let's go ahead and do the styling part real quick. So first thing first, what we will do is let's just go into app.css and fix this weird looking stuff over here. So in here, we have two more stuff to do. So we have the app container, boom. And then it has a height of 700 pixels, a width of 500 pixels with the semicolon. We obviously have a display of flex, display flex. will set the flex direction to column and align all the items to center. And we will have a weird background color. I was just moving around on the RGB scale. So we will have a 232, then a 234. Ouch, not that much. Yeah, and a 237. So that's kind of like a white-ish, gray-ish something. It's between white and light gray. It's just so we have like this stuff. All right, and to actually make it look not that weird, we want to add a border radius of 12 pixels and a padding 32 pixels and 0. So what this will do is it will push stuff from above and below 30 pixels, but will not mess on the sides. Okay? Exactly that. Even if we go into inspect element and we just put it on the side, we can see that on the top and the bottom there is that green line that indicates the whole padding. All right, so next up we have the to-do container, which is this thing. You can go and copy paste, boom, so much faster. And this will actually have a flex of 1. So we want the input to be all the way down and have the to-do list take up as much space as possible. Okay, and we also want to have give it a width of 100%, and then display flex. Give it a semicolon, flex direction of column, and align items to center. All right, time to time to give some style to the to-do item. All right, it's time to give the to-do item some sort of nice looking style, because we have almost the whole thing ready. We're not gonna go too much into detail with this one, but the way it looks is just super unpleasant. So what we want to do is go into to-do item.css and then just target the whole thing. Remember, this is not about creating the ultimate to-do app. It's about understanding how to interact with Redux. So to-do item, we're going to have a display of flex and we are going to align the items to the center with a width of an 80% and a background color of white. We're also going to give it a margin 6 on the vertical axis, 6 pixels on the vertical axis, and 4 pixels on the horizontal axis. Okay, so it's going to be 6 and 6 above and below, and then 4 on the right and on the left. So it's super easy to think like that. Okay, it's going to have a height, I said height of 40 pixels, and then a border radius of 12 pixels. So that way it actually matches the form factor of this app. All right, so that's pretty much all the design we will have, just to give it, just to make sure that the checkbox doesn't go wrong. Let's just set the p tag to use all the space it actually can. So give it a flex of 1, and then we want to set this track through up, so to do item, and remember the modifier. So then it's good. So if that flag is active, we want to add a text decoration of line through, and that will just that will pretty much go ahead and just drag through the done to do. So that's pretty much the design and the styling on the to-do application. So now it is time we actually connect it with Redux over here, and then We had the to-do function, and we are pretty much done. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what is actually going to happen when we shoot again into Redux, into the data layer, and we actually want to grab something out of it. So for that, we actually need to go into the to-do slice once again, and we will need to export the current state of that specific state, okay? So for that, we're just gonna say export const select to-do list. This is how we will call it, and then it will equal to state, and it will fire off a function, right? So it's gonna be the state to-dos, and we want to grab this specific one, okay? So what is happening here? At that point, we will reach into all the states, grab the to-dos one, so this one, right? So this slice, and then pick out this specific state, and then just return that, okay? I hope this kind of makes sense. It's all pattern recognition. Watch this video a few times, try to make it, try to understand it. I will be using this a lot in the near future. I will actually build a few clones with this, just like adding Redux onto it, just so you guys are exposed to it. And yep, that's pretty much what we do in here. And then we go back to app.js, remove all this stuff, and then we will import two things. One is going to be, so let's import the use selector, which is use selector from and this is going to be the tool. It's like dispatch, but dispatch is actually pushing something and it's executing something over there on Redux. But this one, use selector, is actually grabbing a data, okay? So that's what is happening over there. And then we obviously want to get the select to do list from the user slice. So from the to-do slice, okay? So what we want to do is not even that up. So we want to go into features and then to-do slice. That's pretty much what we need to import. And over here, we definitely need to make this specific variable. So it's just going to be const, boom, and then equals use selector, and we're just going to select the to-do list. Notice how I gave the names, what kind of naming convention did I use. So obviously this should be just how you would name the variable, but then over here it has to, like, it is highly advised that you give either a set or a save or something that is actually referring to what is happening over there, okay? So you might want to just go with some sort of descriptive naming, but make sure that it's actually an action. And when you export, you always want to go with select, because that way you know that, okay, you select, so you need to use selector, and it just connects. All right. So let's take a look at what's happening over here. Okay, so to-do list not defined, bung. We don't care about that just yet. All right, so to-do, bomb. I don't even, let's say take the dog for a walk, add, boom, there it is. Buy groceries, bam, there we go. Now, right now, checking it off doesn't work just yet, but this is what we are going to be doing next up. All right, last but not least, we want to actually create a handle check function that will take care of all the checking and all that stuff. So if we actually go ahead and do check the button, or do check the to-do, if you actually do check the to-do, then it actually goes ahead and changes from unchecked to checked, right? Because over here, nothing happens. And if we actually decide that, okay, it's actually not done, then we want to uncheck it, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So over here, this is going to be the function that we will dispatch into Redux, okay? So let's go into to-do slice, okay? And we are going to actually have another reducer, okay? So reducer is essentially a function that we run through Redux, okay? So what we want to do is it's going to be set check. And again, it's something super descriptive. It is super descriptive, so I know that it is setting the item either checked or unchecked, but it definitely sets the check. Okay, and in here we are just going to map through the to-do list, and we actually first want to identify like which item are we actually talking about. Okay, so we're just gonna say state.to-do list.map, right? And that will actually give back an item, and we will decide if it is ours or not. So you're just gonna go if, and then action dot payload. We're just gonna go ahead and say action dot payload, and if it actually equals to item dot id, then we actually want to check if it is. Then we actually want to go ahead and do the checking or the unchecking, right? So in here, we're going to have another if statement, and we're going to check if, and we're going to see if the item dot done is equal to true. So if that to do is done or not. So if it is, then we want to set that to false, right? Because then that item is done, but we actually decided that it's not done yet, so we want to uncheck it. Okay, so item that done, and that's going to equal to false. On the other hand, if it is actually not done, then we actually want to mark it as done, and it's going to be true. Boom, and we should be good to go. All right, let's take a look at if it works or not. Let's go ahead and refresh. Okay, take the dog for a walk. Boom. Okay, so the reason it doesn't work is because I made the reducer, but I haven't exported it. Okay, so I want to go ahead and say set check, and then go back to do item, and then import all the important stuff. I forgot have the stuff. Okay, so we want to have a use dispatch over here. Dispatch. Oh, come on. Dispatch. Bum. And we want to import it from React Redux. I said React Redux. Import use dispatch from React Redux. Yes. That's it. I don't know what didn't work last time, but okay. And then we also want to import set check, and we want to import it from actually a level above, and it's going to be in features to do slice. Okay, so once we handle the check, so once we click that, we actually want to dispatch in there, but we actually need to okay, so let's quickly go ahead and define this dispatch function and leave that empty. So once we actually go ahead and click that check button, then that's when we want to go ahead and just dispatch dispatch, and then set check, and then we just want to give the ID in as a as the payload of that specific action. So this now should be able to take care of checking or unchecking items. So let's go ahead and take the dog for a walk, add, and that, my friends, this is how it is done. We can go ahead and actually add a new one by groceries. Boom. We can we need to do the laundry, do the laundry. Yeah, add that too. And then I just want to check that off, or maybe all of them. Or then I decide, I need to get another stuff, or I haven't done the laundry. Or I might as well just go with the dog for another walk. Okay, let's take a look at what actually happens over here. So take the dog for a walk in Google Chrome as well. All right, so over here we save the to-do, boom. It actually happens in there, boom, we throw it in. Okay, we check it. Okay, set check. Payload. We just throw in that date, okay? The ID. Look at here, boom, and it's set true. Boom. That's it. Simple as that. All right, that was it for today's video. I hope you guys liked it. If so, make sure to smash that like button down below. Literally give that a punch. And if you want to dive deeper in these sort of stuff, make sure to go ahead and check out Profit with JavaScript down below in the description. This is your go-to one-stop shop course to landing jobs as a developer and making a ton of money. So if you like cash, literally go ahead and check it out. Also, let me know if there is something else that you want me to build for you guys. I actually got a few different requests, so it might take quite a while, but I will personally reply to each and every single one of you for the next few hours after this video is being dropped, and just message me over here. This is going to be my Instagram handle. Message me whatever you want, or just comment down below what you think, how you like this one. And with that said, if you guys actually watch the whole thing, drop a snail emoji in the comments just for fun, just so I know like who actually watches the whole stuff. And then, yep, that was it for today. Checking out. Peace.